What if losing your job in the morning led to a Navy helicopter landing just hours later? I was a single dad mechanic with nothing left but hope until one unexpected decision changed my life forever. Why was the Navy searching for me? What did I do years ago that came back to save us? And how did my little daughter's faith become the one thing that kept me standing? Stay with me, because this is not just a story about loss. It's about the moment kindness returns when you need it most. Before we dive into this incredible story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss our powerful, life-changing content. She let the single dad mechanic go. A Navy helicopter arrived hours later. I remember the smell of motor oil on my hands and the weight of unpaid bills in my pocket. Being a single dad meant every choice felt like a gamble I couldn't afford to lose. That morning, my daughter Aisha had kissed my cheek and whispered, "You'll fix everything, Abu." I wished I believed her. The repair shop owner stood in front of me, arms folded, eyes tired but firm. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I have to let you go." Her words didn't feel cruel, just heavy with a truth neither of us wanted. The shop had been struggling for months, and keeping me on meant risking everyone's pay. I nodded, because dignity was the only thing I had left to protect. Outside, the winter air bit through my thin jacket as I wonder how to tell my little girl that hope doesn't always pay rent. I walked home slowly, rehearsing brave words that felt like lies. But when I reached our small apartment, Aisha ran into my arms as if I had returned from a long journey, not a short walk filled with defeat. "We'll be okay," she said, with the certainty only children possess. I held her tighter than usual, drawing strength from her faith. Hours later, a thunderous roar shook the neighborhood. People rushed outside, pointing to the sky as a Navy helicopter descended into the open field nearby. My first thought was that something terrible had happened. My second thought was that such things only happen to other people, not to mechanics who had just lost their jobs. A uniformed officer approached me, scanning the crowd until his eyes landed on my grease-stained jacket. "Are you Kareem Hassan?" he asked. My heart stumbled. "Yes." He smiled, not a formal smile, but one filled with recognition. "Sir, the Navy has been trying to locate you. Your emergency repair work on that flood rescue vehicle 3 years ago saved an entire unit. We've been reviewing civilian commendations. We need skilled mechanics like you." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The memory returned. A night of relentless rain, soldiers stranded, engines drowned in mud, and me working without sleep because lives depended on it. I had never asked for payment. It had simply felt like the right thing to do. The officer handed me a letter of appointment and relocation assistance, a stable salary, housing, education support for Aisha. My knees nearly gave way, not from weakness, but from the sudden release of months of silent fear. Across the field, I saw my former boss watching, her hands clasped near her mouth. When our eyes met, she didn't look ashamed. She looked relieved. I walked over and thanked her. "You did what you had to do," I told her, "and because of that, I was here when this arrived." Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "You deserved better all along." That evening, Aisha and I sat on our worn sofa, the appointment letter between us like a golden ticket to a new life. "See," she said, grinning, "you fix everything." I laughed for the first time in months, a sound that felt unfamiliar but deeply right. In losing my job, I had found proof that kindness never truly disappears. It travels quietly through time, returning when you need it most. Moral: do good without expecting reward, because sincere acts of kindness have a way of finding their way back, often when hope feels lost. That night, sleep did not come easily. Hope, I discovered, can be just as overwhelming as fear. I lay awake listening to Aisha's soft breathing, memorizing the fragile piece of the moment. For the first time in months, tomorrow did not feel like an enemy. It felt like an unopened letter. The next morning, the neighborhood buzzed with whispers. Children pointed at me as if I were a hero from one of their comic books. Neighbors who had once offered polite nods now brought tea, bread, and warm smiles. Not because a helicopter had landed, but because they had witnessed a reminder that hardship is not the end of a story. Mrs. Rahman from upstairs pressed a scarf into my hands. "For your new journey," she said, Every road needs warmth. I wanted to tell her that her kindness had warmed us long before that scarf ever could. At the repair shop, I returned my uniform and tools. The owner, Farah, stood beside the workbench where I had spent countless hours coaxing life back into broken engines. "I kept your toolbox safe," she said, sliding it toward me. Inside, I found my worn wrench set and an envelope. I looked at her, confused. "It's not much," she admitted. The staff pulled it together. "Consider it a thank you for never giving up on us." My throat tightened. Even in letting me go, she had been trying to protect everyone. Even in leaving, I was not leaving empty-handed. Our departure day arrived too quickly. Aisha insisted on waving goodbye to every cracked wall, every crooked stair, every memory that had shaped us. "Home isn't the place," she told me wisely. "It's the people who love you." I wondered when my little girl had learned truths that took adults a lifetime to understand. At the naval base, everything felt enormous. The hangars, the machines, the responsibility. But when I stepped into maintenance bay, the familiar scent of metal and oil wrapped around me like an old friend. A young technician approached nervously. "Sir, we heard about the rescue vehicle you fixed," he said. "How did you manage it with no proper tools?" I smiled. "Tools help," I replied. "But care, patience, and refusing to give up, those fix more than machines." As I worked, I realized I wasn't just repairing engines anymore. I was restoring faith in effort, in service, in the quiet dignity of honest work. Months passed, and life settled into a rhythm we had never known. Aisha started school on the base, her laughter returning in full, bright waves. One evening, she ran toward me holding a drawing. It showed a small figure in greasy clothes, a helicopter overhead, and a child holding his hand. Above it, she had written, "My Abu fixes hearts." I knelt beside her, my vision blurring. "I only fix machines," I said gently. She shook her head. "No," she insisted. "You fix hope." Years later, when I trained new mechanics, I told them a story. Not about the helicopter, not about the job, but about a little girl who believed her father could fix everything, and how that belief gave him the strength to try. I told them that compassion is a skill, that dignity is a choice, that even in moments of loss, we are being guided toward the place we are meant to serve. And sometimes on quiet evenings, I look up when I hear the distant rhythm of helicopter blades, not with fear, not with longing, but with gratitude. Because I know now that life's hardest goodbyes are often the doorways to our most meaningful hellos. Extended moral, kindness, integrity, and perseverance create ripples far beyond what we can see. When we choose compassion over bitterness and effort over despair, we not only change our own fate, we become a light for others finding their way through the dark. Final episode, the sound of returning wings. Years passed, yet the memory of that day never faded. Not because a helicopter had arrived, but because it carried back the dignity I thought I had lost. One spring afternoon, I stood at the edge of the same field where my life had turned. The grass had grown thicker, greener, as if the itself had healed alongside me. Aisha, now taller and wiser, slipped her hand into mine. "Do you still hear it?" she asked. "Hear what?" "The wings," she said, looking up at the open sky. I closed my eyes, and there it was, not the sound of engines, but the echo of faith, kindness, and second chances. Farah arrived a few minutes later, carrying a small toolbox wrapped in brown paper. Her repair shop had survived, not by profit alone, but by the loyalty of a community that had seen her compassion. "I wanted you to have this," she said, handing me the package. Inside was a single wrench, polished to shine. "You left your mark on every bolt you turned," she told me. "This one reminds me that letting go isn't failure. Sometimes it's faith." We stood together in comfortable silence, no longer bound by loss, but by shared resilience. That evening, as the sun melted into shades of gold and amber, Aisha placed a wrench in my palm and closed my fingers around it. "You kept your promise," she said softly. "I did. You fixed everything that mattered." In that moment, I understood. Success was never the uniform I wore. It was the hearts I refused to harden, the hope I refused to abandon, The kindness I chose even when life felt unfair. As we walked home, the sky deepened into twilight and the first stars appeared. Quiet witnesses to journeys both broken and restored. I realized that every person carries unseen battles. Every goodbye hides the seed of a new beginning. And every act of compassion, no matter how small, becomes a for someone lost in the dark. Final moral for everyone. Treat people with kindness, even when life forces difficult decisions. Do good without keeping score, because sincere actions return in ways we cannot predict. Hard times do not define us. Our response to them does. When we choose empathy, patience, and integrity, we help prepare a world that, like any engine, runs best when every part cares for the other. Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it moved you, please share it, leave a comment, and remind someone today, you are never alone.